Okay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on wherever you're watching us from. My name is Teacher Funke, and I reside in Lagos, Nigeria. And this is the third section on social and emotional learning in the classroom. The first section was an introductory one, and the second section we looked at two of the CASEL competencies relating to social and emotional learning. Last week we looked at self-awareness and also we looked at social awareness. Okay, and they were told that self-awareness has to do with understanding oneself, how the learners in our classroom can understand themselves. And social awareness, we're told, has to do with empathy, walking in another person's shoes, how the learners in our classroom are able to relate with others, understanding the fact that they are different, okay, from them. And also they have emotions the same way they have their own emotions too. So tonight we're going to be looking at the three other parts of CASEL competencies, the five skills relating to social and emotional learning. So the three ones we're going to study tonight is self-management, okay, and then we have the relationship skills, and then we have the responsible decision making. Those are the three last ones we're going to study tonight. And in our last episode next, we're going to look at how we can be practical about social and emotional learning and its benefit in the classroom, activities that we can do to bring social and emotional learning alive in our classroom. So I'd like to start with these facts of the day. Social and emotional learning can improve positive attitudes towards self and others, and also increase student academic performance by 11 percentile points. Social and emotional learning can improve positive attitude towards self and others, and also increase student academic performance by 11 percentile points. So we got that from Durack et al. 2011. Like I said, the first edition, one of the benefits of social and emotional learning in the classroom is that it helps the learners to bring out the best in them. It brings out the best in the learners. It helps them to improve their grades. Okay, if a child learns more about his or herself, a child learns more about his or her emotions and feelings, then that child, once that child sees that kind of emotion in his or her classmate, that child is going to put his or herself in that person's shoes. I made an example last week about Joy, who saw our classmate crying, and they remember that whenever somebody has done bad to her, she cries. Okay, she feel at that moment she felt the pain and the anger that classmate was going through. Also from last week spoke about asking the question, moving from asking the question, what is wrong with you, to what's happening to you or what has happened to you or what happened to you. So as educators, let's ask the question, what happened to you before a child behaves in a particular way. One or two things must have gone wrong before that child behaves in that particular way. So it's up to us to know what has gone wrong, not just to know what happened to that child, what made the child to have a change of attitude, not just what really went wrong with the child. Okay, so briefly, let me go on to what we have tonight. And the first one to look at is self-management. Self-management. Talking about social and emotional learning, we've looked at self-awareness last week. That's a child understanding his herself. So now, how can a child manage his herself? Children, adult, we have emotions, we have feelings, we have things going on around us. How then can we manage ourselves? So, what is self-management? Self-management is the ability to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors effectively in different situations. The ability to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors effectively in different situations. Okay, as human beings, we are every now and then we are faced with different situations. we are faced with different challenges. Okay, so whenever those challenges come our way, how are we able to manage them? Even as learners, as pupils in our classroom, how are they able to manage different situations that happen to them? Probably it's an exam period, probably there's an issue at home. How is that child able to manage those situations that those things do not affect the child negatively? So let's look at the skills that social that self-management helps a child to get or to achieve. So self-management skills allows a child to manage his or her emotion. So if a child is aware of his or her emotion, as we discussed last week, and this is where management comes in. So the child now is aware of his or her emotions. The child now has knowledge of the different ways he or she might be feeling depending on the situation at hand. So if a child is feeling angry, for instance, how will the child be able to manage that emotion? So this skill actually helps the child to know how to manage such emotion, and also it helps to make connections between a child's thought, feelings, and also their actions. Don't forget that the way your thought, okay, determines your actions. The way a child thinks, the way a child feels is going to what determine the kind of action that the child is going to exhibit. So when the child knows that whatever thing he or she thinks about in his heart is going to what show forth in the way the child behaves. Then lastly, it helps to think about and how to control their emotions before acting. Even adults sometimes we do that. We just act before acting, and that's very wrong. Repercussions is very, very, as in very, very huge when we do such. So when we tell our children that they need to think before acting, they need to think before speaking, that is going to help them the way they relate with people around them. It's going to save them from entering of going into so many problems or challenges that they ought to avoid in the first place. So self-management skills help them to make connections between their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions, not forgetting that whatever they think about is going to come forth as one of their actions. So, how can we know if learners use self management at school? Probably as educators, how do we know if a child in our classroom is able to manage his or herself? How do we know if a child has self-management skills? The first is that that child is going to follow directions in class. So those children in our classroom that follows direction accordingly, the way the teacher says it, the ground rules, they follow the ground rules accordingly. That child has self-management skills. So if a child is doing otherwise, that's to tell us that we need to help that child. That child needs help in managing his or herself. And that's going to boil down to having self-awareness, to tell the child, to make the child understand his or herself, the child's emotions, the thought, and also the feelings. So that is what self-management does. And also, it helps when you see a child staying on task at a particular classwork or to complete classwork. If that child stays on that task till the child is finally done with that task, that child is able to manage his herself, just like we have self-control. Because in the class, we have some of them when they're given tasks to do, that's when they will stand up and they begin to disturb other people. So if the child is not able to concentrate fully in the classroom, the child lacks self-management skill. One other way is that when the child is able to control his or her reactions appropriately, even when there is a problem or there is an argument that is arising from a classmate. We see that almost all the time. Okay, if another classmate is trying to do something that is not related to what is happening in the class or the activity at that moment. So some of them will get distracted and kind of look in that direction, but some will look in that direction and continue the task at hand. So if at that point that child is easily distracted, is not able to be focused on the task at hand, we need to help that child to manage his herself. And the truth is that in life, whatever we are doing, even in our workplace, there will be distraction. Even when you're working on the road, there will be distraction. So this skill help a child to be focused at any given task. They might be distracted, but it boils down to how the child is able to avoid that distraction and come back to the given task at hand. Okay, so It's also this. Let's look at some skills that the children will need to develop self-management. They need some other skills to develop self-management. Okay, first we have is emotional knowledge. We discussed that a lot last week. They need to understand their emotions, they need to understand their feelings, they need to recognize their emotions, even their own emotion, and also recognize emotions of others. Another skill is attention control. That's the ability to attend to relevant information while resisting distractions. There will always be distraction. Probably something fell from the table, and then the child looks in that direction and didn't continue on the task at hand. So this is very, very necessary attention control. Some of them failed test or they failed exam because they were not listening in the class. Okay, they had attention deficit. So in this, having these skills will help them to what, to be able to focus on a particular task they were given to do. Then let's look at the coping strategies. If we need to help a child to manage his or her emotions, how can that child cope in our classroom? We can help a child to have like deep breath, the child to breathe in and breathe out in the classroom. Okay, so with that, the child is able to focus on the given task or activity on ground. We could also have the child to close his or her eyes and also count 1 to 10. In that moment, the child feels relaxed and is able to continue on that task. You could also go on a brain break. Yes, I love going on brain breaks in my class. You could have a few yoga exercises. You can have the child to just like imagining his herself in, let's say, Disneyland for just few seconds. The truth is, when a child in the class and then the child as in is not too engaged, they will always be what? There will be distraction. Another thing is if a child keeps working, the child is not given enough time to rest his brain or to just relax and think again, that child is going to lose concentration. So in our classroom, at one point or the other, before transitioning from one point to the other, let's have brain breaks in our classroom. Okay, the fourth one we're going to talk about is relationship skills. Relationship skills, and this has to do with the ability to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationship with other people. I'm going to come again. Relationship skills has to do with the ability to establish and maintain healthy and relationship with healthy and supportive relationship with others. So if a child does not have good relationship with others, it's going to be a very difficult problem. Even in the classroom, the child is going to be struggling. If a child cannot sit down and then one or two things, probably a child, a friend, a classmate steps on the other person mistakenly, and then the child just kind of hits the other person, that child is going to be put in. That child is in trouble already. So this skill has to do with helping a child to manage the way the child behaves with others, having and maintaining supportive relationship with people around. We cannot do without others. We need to tell our children and learners that they cannot do with other classmates, and so they need to learn how to maintain healthy and supportive relationship with people around them, not just their classmates, even the health workers, even those people that is meet even in the school bus and the likes. Okay, so now according to CASEL, relationship skills help children to communicate effectively with others. You know, in the 21st century skills, we have so many things. In the first century age, we have so many skills we are building in learners. One of the essential 21st century skills is communication. In this age, every adult, every individual must know how to communicate effectively, not just effectively, but responsibly. Some people have lost their jobs as a result of not being able to communicate effectively, some on social media, some could be physically. So at this young age, we need to start inculcating communication skills in our learner. So this skill helps the children to do that. And the number two is that help them to resist negative peer pressure. Relationship skills help the learners to resist negative peer pressure. We have so many negative peer pressure outside. We have them out all over, everywhere. We see learners in these days, just the most times they're exposed to their iPad, their iPhone, the smartphones, and then they just kind of consume everything they watch on the internet. And so that kind of build their attitude and their habits. So if we have these skills introduced to them earlier, and then they're able to notice that this particular person's attitude is a negative one, and then they're being pressurized to do the wrong thing. So if a child knows that, that child will not be pressurized to follow bad gang or do the wrong things he or she is asked to do. Number three is that it helps to make friends and maintain positive relationship. It helps to make friends and maintain positive relationship. And the fourth one is that it helps collaboration and it builds problem solving skills. As said earlier, we can't do it ourselves. So collaboration has to be working together effectively and efficiently. So it's not until when a child gets out of school and a child gets to workplace and the child start learning how to collaborate with people. No, even from young age, we can teach them. We can imbibe these skills in them. So in classroom, let's not just teach the curriculum. Let's be aware of these skills, because if you inculcate these skills in our curriculum, in our classroom, it's going to make the children, when they grow up, okay, they're not going to be lacking on the necessary skills they will need to even excel in their workplace. So it builds collaboration and problem solving skills in our learners. They're able to solve problems at ease with others. And don't forget that the world we're in is looking for problem solvers, okay? Anyone is able to solve a particular problem is termed a hero or heroine in our world today. Lastly, this skill helps them to resolve conflict. Little ones, adult, young adult, they have conflict amongst themselves. So if a child is aware of those things he or she needs to do to have and maintain healthy relationship, the child is going to be also the child is also going to learn how to resolve those disagreements he or she has with the people around him or her. So relationship skills are commonly referred to as social skills, interpersonal skills, and also friendship skills. So all these are very, very essential as individuals in the 21st century age. So how do we know if a child uses these skills appropriately in the classroom, at home, in the community, at school, wherever the child finds herself? The first is that the child is able to compliment or congratulate other people. So if you see a child, okay, who instead of complimenting his or her classmate, instead of doing that, rather the child looks down on that person, or the child speaks harsh words to this person, that child is lacking. That child needs help on his relationship skills. So when you see a child that congratulates others, that compliment people's dressing, compliments the way they talk or their attitude, that child is good to go when it comes to relationship skills. Then the other thing to look out for is if the child is always being kind, is always kind to other people. If a child shows kindness willingly to other people, that child has a good relationship skills. In the workplace, in the 21st century workplace, this skill is essential. It's not just for those in the human resource department. Every individual in this age needs relationship skills. Then, when a child is ready, always ready to offer help to people around them, that child is having a good relationship skill. And if it is otherwise, that is showing to us that that child needs our help on how to maintain healthy and supportive relationship with other people. And lastly, when a child shows understanding and accept other people's differences and opinion, even at school or probably at the public event, yes, thumbs up for that child. If that child understands other people's differences, opinions, and religions, that child doesn't down on them because the child or the other person is having a different ethnic group, or from a different ethnic group, or having a different culture or religion. If that child understands that opinion at that moment or at all time, that child is having a good relationship skill. So let's look at the tips to quickly promote relationship skills in the classroom. The first tip is that we should encourage sharing and helping others. Encourage kindness in your classroom. In my class, what I do is I advise them to show random act of kindness to people, and then I award them. So if in a week you are the highest person who shows kindness to people, you have a prize from me. Okay, so we need to bring that also in our classroom. As adults, we need to model kindness to them, not just telling them. So when you see a child that shows kindness to others, what do? Let's award, let's reward that child. In doing that, it's going to also encourage other people to be kind. We need more people showing kindness in this world. The world has gone beyond not showing kindness. It has gone beyond not showing empathy to people. Okay, because we see so many people out there going through so many things. The economy of the world is not appealing. But if you can show kindness to people, are going to make the world a better place. So to start with, let's inculcate this skill in our children. Let us encourage them to share and to also help one another in the classroom. The other one is that we should discuss the importance of being kind to others. Let's have a brainstorming section in our classroom on the reason why we need to show kindness to people. So if we do that constantly, they will see the need to be kind to people around them. They will see the need not to speak harsh words. They will see the need not to bully others. But if we don't keep saying this, if we just say it once and then we stop, it's going to affect them. So constantly, let's brainstorm, let's discuss on the importance of showing kindness to people around us. So I want to look at the last one tonight on the five CASEL competencies as regarding social and emotional learning. Okay, the last one is responsible decision making. Responsible decision making. As the children are growing up, it's not all the time that you have adults around them. There are some times that they'll be alone with their friends. They will need to make decisions. So daddy, their parents won't be with them at all time. Teachers, we won't be with them even while they're playing on the playground. We won't be very close to them when they relate with their friends. So at every point or the other, they will need to make decisions. So if they are aware of this skill is going to guide them not just to make decisions, but to make responsible decisions, to make healthy decisions. We've heard of so many stories of children just because of what their peers or their friends say to them that is a decision from them, then that decision kind of alter the child's life. Like the very common one we had in Nigeria not too long ago when the children had to play the truth and dare game. So if a child is very versatile in this skill, the child is going to know his limits, going to know when to say no to peer pressure or social influences. So a quick one on the responsible decision making. It is the ability to make caring and constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions across a variety of situations. Responsible decision making is the ability to make caring and constructive. The term there is what the keyword there is constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions across a variety of situations. As these kids grow up, they are faced with so many temptations, they are faced with so many challenges. And sometimes they have the time, the opportunity to ask an elderly person, a parent, or a teacher. And at some point, they will have to make that decision themselves. So if at that point they are to make a decision, a very fast one, what will they do? Do they just jump to conclusion since they don't have an idea, they don't know what to say? No. So this skill is going to help them to do that. So what does this skill promote? According to CASEL, this relationship responsible decision making promotes the following in children. It promotes the ability to think before acting. To think before acting. Despite the fact that they are young ones, they can actually always think before acting. Even as an adult, you and I you agree with me that there are some situations, some bad situations we find ourselves today. If we are taught properly about that thing before we make the decision, we wouldn't have found ourselves in that wrong shoe. So, in order for our young ones not to always fall into the wrong things or the wrong decisions, we need to enlighten them on responsible decision making. Okay, so this skill promotes, it helps a child or learners to think before acting, okay, not just jump into conclusion. They ask themselves questions about, probably I'm meant to give a response to my friend. I'm going to ask myself what I'm about to say. Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it going to be useful to the situation at hand? Not just opening their mouth just to say whatever comes to their mind. They need to think before acting, because our words, when you speak, and then you don't know what how the other person is going to feel about your words or actions. So it's essential we think before we jump into any kind of conclusion. Also, it helps them to understand the consequences of an action. If a child knows that my action has consequences, either good or bad, whatever I say, whatever I do has consequences, that child will always think deeply before responding to any kind of situation or question the child is faced at the moment. So this can helps the child to understand that their thoughts can actually go to become an action. And if that thought is not properly managed, it's going to bring out an action that's going to affect or have a negative impact on others. Yes, that's where the third one goes. That's coming, recognizing how their feelings impact themselves and others. Children or young ones need to know that their feelings have what impact on others, because as I said, their feelings grows, their thought, their feelings is as a result, their actions are as a result of what they think in their hearts. Okay, so whatever they think in their heart, whatever they feel, can have an impact on other people. More so, we have it's evident to resist peer pressure. It helps them to resist peer pressure. Okay, so if their friends are pressuring them on doing what they know is not right, this skill is going to help them to resist to a very reasonable, what a reasonable pace, to resist peer pressure. Lastly, it helps to resolve conflict. It helps to resolve conflict among learners, among students, and even the way they relate with their teachers, the way they relate with adults around them. So all these skills are necessary, are essential. It's not just enough for us to build or to make them as in geniuses when it comes to the academics. What about the way they relate with others? In the world today, if you're very, very smart or academically, and then your emotions, you're not able to control your emotions, even now in your workplace or the way you relate with your friends, is going to affect that person. So we need all these skills to build a competent individual that's going to be very good at the workplace. We need all these skills to be imbibed and inculcated in our learners, so that in the next future, they are going to look back and appreciate their educators or their teachers, their parents, and even the community. So what CASEL does, what these competencies does, is that first of all, we need these competencies to affect these children positively. Okay, so if they are aware about these competencies and these skills, it will first of all make the child a better individual, because a child who is able to manage his or her emotions, okay, we have a good relationship towards others. So, and that's where the child personally, then the way the child relates with the community at large. The truth is that in this world, nobody should be left behind. Nobody, everybody is something. There is nobody that should be termed as just a not to do person. So we all need ourselves to grow. We need these children to grow. As we all say that they are the future of the world. So if they are the future of the leaders of future leaders of tomorrow, what do? We need to help them. We need to train them. In the next 5, 10 years, that want to be in charge of so many things as in the leadership position of the world. So if we do not imbibe these skills in them, it's still going to affect the world in the nearest future. So these five skills are essential. Social and emotional learning in the classroom is very, very essential. It helps to boost their academic performance. It helps to improve or to boost their confidence. It helps to make them a better person. A child who is happy with his or herself, okay, is able to discover use our potentials and use the potentials to make the world a better place. But if a child has not discovered his or herself, there is no way that child will be able to what to contribute is a good quota to the development of the communities or he or she finds is ourselves. So we need social and emotional learning in our classroom. We need it in the world today. We need it in the community and everywhere we find ourselves. These kids in our classroom need social and emotional learning to become a better person in the future. So we can't wait for the future to come before we start imbibing these skills in there. We need to start now. We need to start now. Okay, so we've come to the end of tonight's section on the five competencies according to CASEL when it has to do, and it has to do with social and emotional learning. We've studied self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So next week, hopefully, we're going to talk about the benefit and then how we can inculcate this in our classroom fully, the activities and the tools that are going to help us to what to practice social and emotional learning in our classroom. Thanks so much for watching. Till I come your way, same time, same Facebook channel next week Saturday. Bye.